great war comes as we know it must, and the government...
Good morning, it's Guido, and we're here with a coffee talk. I've got my coffee, as you can see, ready to go, nice and warm. I hope you've got yours. We're going to talk about tanks because it's the weekend and it is time for the next episode of Coffee Talk. Or potentially, if you like tea, as one of my subscribers asked, go ahead and fire up your tea. It could be noon or so in England or something. Alrighty, what is on the docket today? I've got three things that we're going to go over today. Number one is the patch notes for the new patch that just came out, so we'll talk about those, ranked battles and such. And then we're going to talk quickly about the female crews in the game, which sounds like a fairly niche or esoteric discussion, but it's actually related to the last thing we're going to talk about, which is revisiting the PR mess that the company is currently in. The question is then, after a couple weeks of Fochgate, what have they learned? Well, I'll give you a bit of a precursor because they hit rock bottom, got out a shovel, and started digging. Alrighty, so let's start with patch notes. 9.19 has just dropped. There has been a small patch to 1.19, but 1.19 has all the changes in it. So of course we've got ranked battles. That's the big new mode. Yay, we've got a new mode, ranked battles, 9.19. Let's get to it. It doesn't start till June 5th. I don't know. I don't know why they do things like that. I'm assuming it's some kind of technical issue. So here we are. It's only a few days, right? So we're going to wait. But let's take a look at what they say it's going to do for us. Got a quick list of how it works. We've got it matchmaking. It's tier 10, so you've got to have a tier 10 tank to do it. End game kind of content. Talks about the progression. So basically, the top 12 on the winning team will get a chevron, which is how you advance up the ranks. The top 3 of the losing team will get a chevron. The bottom 3 of the winning team will be neutral. They won't lose or gain a chevron. And the bottom 12 on the losing team will lose a chevron. So essentially, if you lose and don't do well, you're going backwards. If you win and do okay, because it's only the top 3 who don't get one, you're going to move forward. So it's that give or take as you win and lose, moving up through the ranks. And there's a big discussion on how many ranks there are. I believe there's up to 5 with multiple chevrons in between to get to the next rank. It's going to be broken down, at least initially in the beta, to a 7-day season or whatever they call it. And it will be reset after that 7 days. It'll go for 28 days, so Math and Public, they'll do that 4 times. And at the end of those 28 days, they'll take all of your results for those 28 days for each 7-day section, total them, and then it will come up with some kind of rank, at which point you'll be given bonds. So what you can see from all of that, without getting any more detailed than I already did, is it's a grind. All right, so you are going to have to play each season, and you are going to have to play quite a bit, depending on how high you want to get or how your win-loss rate is going and such. So this is going to be very grindy. Very grindy. And then of course we get to the controversial part, which is the bonds will buy some things, and one of the things they will buy, or some of the things they will buy, is improved equipment, which nearly every good player in the game, and even the not so good players, have said is a bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? It's a bad idea because you're now giving extra bonuses to people who are already very good. And right now, it appears that those pieces of equipment will also be able to be used on lower tier tanks in pub battles. So as if there needed to be a bigger advantage for a good player, they can work their way up in ranked battles, get the extra bonus percentage for that piece of equipment, and then go use it against the new players or the worst players in pubs. And that's just terrible. It is. It really is terrible. I am very surprised, actually, even considering all the things that have been happening in this game and the history of wargaming developed in this game. I am really actually right now surprised, which I thought I never would be, that they have obstinately refused to change that. Even with all the blowback, with all of the pay-to-win stuff that's going on right now, with all the OP premium tank talk, whether or not you believe it or not, all the talk, that they are continuing with this plan, but there it is. All right, so that's enough on the ranked battles. We get down to missions 2.0. I'm not going to delve into this. This may be an actual coffee talk later on after I digest what they have done to the mission panels. at first glance, they're very confusing, and that's terrible for UI. This kind of thing should be self-evident at first glance. So when you're designing a UI, you should be able to, in the case of a game like this, for a mission, be able to look right at that and really understand right off the bat what's going on. I couldn't. So it's not impossible. It's not like the Impossible Dream or anything, but it is kind of goofy. So we will delve into that a little bit later. It may grow on me. We'll let that one go for now. Clan management, I don't do too much of that. Improvements to strongholds, also some little things done there. HD models, great, excellent content. This is what we're talking about. This is how the game gets better right here. I like that. All these tanks are good. Well, these little low tiers I could really care less about. And then we get down to the MTLS 1G14. How many of those are in game? Look, when you are managing stuff like this on a big company, you've got time, man hours, and money, and you've got to manage it in the most efficient way possible. If I had an employee come to me and say, hey, I'm working on the MTLS 1G14, which approximately 1.3 people own in the game, I'd have said, no, you're not, and I'd have handed him the job of some other tank that a lot of people play. I mean, that would be, to me, one of the very dead last HD models that would be done. It's crazy. All right, sound. This one was interesting, and it does relate a little bit to our second discussion about female crew, which I won't get into, but we'll just talk about the sound part because they've added female crew members into the game. And what they have done is something very strange. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get us over to Watt, and we are going to take a look at this thing. And you can see that I've got it called up my settings right here, and I'm in the sound section. And down here on voice messages and battle is where you can change to the new female sounds. So if you look over at the patch notes again, which I'm not going to show you because I'm showing you this other screen, so take that. It says, this is awesome, the national voiceover option was replaced with the commander option. That provides voice notifications that depend on both the nation and gender of the vehicle commander. Thus, if the crew commander is female, the voiceover will also be female. Okay, fair enough. So my choices now are standard, which for me, because I have the English client, is English. Okay, fair enough. And then this commander. Standard and command. Well, where's my female option? Well, you don't get that. So when you click the commander, which used to be national, I can't make this up. When you click to commander, which used to be national, now you get all of the national sounds plus the female. So if you want just your English or your standard, whatever that happens to be for your client, with the female sounds, too bad. You don't get that. You have to go to commander, which is an odd choice of word for that. I understand it's the commander, but anyway, you get all the different national sounds and the female voice. So that that is how it works. I don't get it. But anyway, that was one way to do it. Of all the ways to do it, that was one of them. All right. So 7, we get to, hey, company battles are removed. I don't know, has anybody played a company battle? I don't even know if that was still activated. Recruit training missions disable. Okay, got it. Changes to the matchmaker. This was interesting to me. They made some changes to decrease the number of 1 and 2 tier battles in favor of the 3, 5, 7. Does that mean we're going to get a little bit more wait time? Because that seems like the 1 and 2 tier battles were kind of the dump battles when it couldn't really set up the 3, 5, 7. And when you're talking about tier 10 and 9 tanks, especially tier 10, which a lot of people will play, especially at certain points of the night, it seems like this may slow down the matchmaking because you don't have the dump battles, but it doesn't really mention anything about that. I didn't actually even know this was a huge issue. I know people are complaining about not being top tier, and maybe that's what this is talking about, trying to jam everyone who wants to be top tier into that 3. So you've got 20,000 people on your server, and by God, they all want to be top tier, their fair share, but you only got 3 slots out of 15 for each team. I don't know how you square that corner. I mean, I don't want to do any more math in public, but good golly, that seems difficult. All right, so we get that. Change to be noticeable at high battle levels, which is what I just talked about, tier 8 to tier 10. And then this kind of throwaway sentence end of it here, we will slightly tighten the requirements for matchmaking in terms of platoons, SPGs, tank destroyers, and light tanks. All right, this goes back to a discussion I've had multiple times. So they are balancing, supposedly, platoons, SPGs, tank destroyers, and light tanks, so that you are within ±1 on a team of each one of those things. But the problem is that's not the classes, those are not the classes that matter in balancing. It's the mediums and the heavies. All right, so the heavies for all the extra HP, especially if you get a medium to heavy imbalance, the HP is a big issue. The HP pool is part of this game. That's a huge factor in balance in this game, the HP pool. There's lots of other stuff, but HP pool is a massive factor in the balance. So really, if they would just shit can all of that and switch it to balancing mediums and heavies, I think most of their problems are done. Who cares about ±1 most of these, except for SPGs? That's an important one. I wouldn't want 5 SPGs on one side and 1 on the other. That would not be good. But if you just balanced heavies to mediums, I think you fix a lot of your problems. But anyway, this is what we got, and they have tightened it up. I didn't even know it was a problem, other than perhaps the not being top tier. But I sort of understand from the math that if you were jamming a 357 down everyone's throats right there, there's just that many high tier, you know, top tier, not high tier, but top tier slots for every tank. Every time you click, there's only so many high tier slots or top tier slots that you can be jammed into. All right, changes to perks. We got Sisterhood of Steel now becomes Brothers in Arms. Essentially, what they've done is it's now Brothers in Arms, so you can mix and match crews, which I like, and that's going to go to the female crew discussion that I'm going to talk about second. That's also tied into that discussion. So we'll get that in just a minute. This one's a head scratcher. It really is. Look, you have a established game, 6 years, whatever it's been running, and there are certain control conventions that people have on their keyboards and their mouse or whatever system, trackball, if for goodness sake, if somebody's using that thing. Touchpad, good Lord, does anyone use a touchpad? I don't know, maybe they do. But there are conventions that the way they've got things set up and the way they play the game. When you go dorking around with those controls for no real reason, that is just dopey. That is really dopey. So what they've done is they've made the auto aim and the turret lock, essentially they are connected and you cannot unconnect them. I happen to have both of them on the right mouse button the whole time, so that was just the way I had mine set up, and I believe it was the default. So probably for a lot of people, it's not going to change a whole bunch, and there's a lot of confusion on the forum because of this, because I think a lot of people said, well, what's the change? It's still doing what I used to do. But some people had separated that control and used a T or a space or whatever it is for auto aim, and that's great. If you're having that kind of flexibility in your system and your control schemes, that's great for a game. Why you would then give less control for no real good reason, I don't know. If there's some technical reason, it would actually be nice if they would just put that on there. Hey guys, we did this because of XYZ. Right now it just seems arbitrary and capricious, right? Somebody had a way that they had their keyboard set up, it was an option within the game, and they've just taken away the option, and sorry, here you go. I don't get it. We got some changes to vehicles added and some things improved, but there you go for the first topic, which was going to be patch notes. And let's go ahead and drink a cup of coffee, or have a drink of coffee, and then we're going to talk about the females in the game. All right, let's dive into the female crew thing. So it's 2017. Actually, when the game came out, it was what, 2011, 2012, something of that nature. And you are trying to market your game to an international audience, a large portion of which is in the Western world, Western Europe, in North America. And even in the rest of the world, these things are starting to become a bit of an issue. And you have only male crew, which is fine because you kind of have a World War II content and you're talking a lot about the historical thing. But along the way, the historical thing starts going out the window and you're attempting to be inclusive. And you decide to make female crew members prizes. All right, somewhere along the way, fellas, what you should have done, obviously, is allow people to pick when they pick their crew whether they want a female or a male crew. All right, so try to enter 2017 at some point. I'm not white knighting. I'm just talking common sense, man. You're trying to expand the appeal of your game. You don't make female crew members prizes to be to be won and hoarded. Very strange. So you needed to have that choice, and you still need to have that choice, which would then fix a lot of the issues that you are now trying to fix from the wrong direction. So why is there not a choice? Why are they prizes? And then you made a decent decision on making Brothers in Arms and Sisterhood of Steel the same thing. You've changed it all to Brothers in Arms, which is fine. That works for me. But the problem now is, one of the problems now is you got a lot of people who built crews based on the old system. So they went through the missions and they got the prizes and built certain crews the way they want to build them, which now that you've done what you've done, they probably would have done something different. If you're not going to allow them to reset the crew, I suppose there's an argument for not doing that. I don't know what it would be, but maybe you guys can come up with one. But if you're not going to do that, what you do need is to put some kind of designation on the crews, and this also applies to like the Berlin crews, where you've got that first 0 skill slot for skills or perks. There needs to be some way to identify those crew, because now you've got people moving these crew around to different tanks, and it's very difficult to remember which one of those crews have that 0 skill modifier. If that is in there somehow, I don't know. You could tell by looking at the experience required, but that would mean you, for the next skill, you would have to dig in there and kind of know the numbers of all that. So if there was just something up here, you know, rank, name, expert crew, or something that would let us know that that crew has that special 0 skill perk. If you want to make a prize out of a crew, and I think those crew as prizes for missions is awesome, but just let people select whether it's a male or female and then make that kind of crew a prize. That's one of the coolest prizes, I think, actually, that are out there. Now, I realize that that kind of does the same thing that the ranked battle prize will do, because those crews are slightly better, but at least it is a lower level of bonus, and it does take quite a bit of grinding to make that matter. But I would really like to see something, like I said, expert crew, or something that let us know that we have that 0 skill crew. And that's really, you know, it's a small thing. Again, it's not a white knight thing. It's just a common sense thing. You're trying to expand the vision of your game. You're trying to get the largest audience that you can out there. Why have these little kind of pokes in the eye that you really don't need? Just make your crew selectable, male or female. And then that gets back to the voiceover thing. Please un-F that. That's unreal. I don't know who decided to put that into the UI that way, but my goodness gracious, it's terrible. And that brings us then to the last thing, which is going to be fun. So hold on, and we will get to what they have learned from the recent PR mess. All right, have a drink of coffee, fellas, because this is going to be fun. And ladies, I was just talking about being inclusive. See, there I go. All right, so what have they learned from the recent PR mess? I am going to say precious little. When your PR system in your game is out in the street, when it can be described accurately as a dumpster fire, you would need to get into a defensive crouch, and everything you do with the public needs to be good to perfect. Those are the only choices, good to perfect. So let's take a look at this video, because something relatively controversial happens right here, and most of you may already know what this is. But this is from the grand finals, and it's in, these guys are talking in Russian. So I'm not going to be able to tell you what they're saying. Actually, I will tell you one thing that they say, that I know they say. But I want you to check the intro to this final, or to this grand final video. Epic music. Panning out. But pausing or something. More epic music. PR department. We're going to build up the company. Let's stop the dumpster fire. Grand finals is in a great big epic building.
Вообще и после этого не поможет. Там скорее есть местами. То есть, как ни странно, турбослива во многом лежат в области.
Okay, so I'm not I'm not going to make you watch that. Could they have found 3 more excited guys to represent the company? I mean, are these guys not fired up to be at the World of Tanks Grand Finals talking to the customer? I mean, look at them. They are jazzed. These dudes are excited to be there. Oh man, come on. The dumpster fire is raging. You make some videos, you put these guys up there, the 1,000-yard stare. They clearly don't want to be there. Come on. Wow. All right, so this guy is Makarov, who I didn't really know. I mean, I'd heard the name. I didn't know what he looked like. I had to look it up. When I saw the video, I didn't even know which of these three guys he was. And he makes some comments in here that are absolutely fascinating. So here it is. This is off of Rita's blog, and this is the quote right here. And you can look it up in multiple places. It's also on Reddit. I may link it down there on the comments for you, because the translation has been in several directions. The standard thing with translation, sometimes the nuances or the syntax isn't quite right. But essentially what he apparently said is artillery, it was a question about artillery, obviously. Artillery is a good class for autistic people. Why are you complaining about it? Really? There's another translation that says is a good class for autists, which apparently in Russian is kind of like calling you a baddie or the R word or some fashion of that. But it doesn't really matter, because you've got one of your top muckety mucks up there, gets asked about a controversial part of his game. His PR program is a dumpster fire. Their stuff is in the street, and he fires off with, artillery is a good class for autistic people. Why are you complaining about it? And then, of course, some people laugh. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Wow. Wow. That's the big hook needed to come off from off stage and pull that guy right off. Man, I mean, I'm assuming he's the boss in there. If he has a boss, his boss should have taken him off of that stage. All right, so let's break this down though, because what you have here is you've got the discussion about artillery, which is still controversial even with the changes. And he apparently knows that it's bad, or it's a bad game mechanic. And we just continue on in the same direction, right? I mean, they know it's a bad game mechanic. They don't really know what to do. They laugh about it. And they got a PR dumpster fire, and he says, hey, it's good for autistic people. Wow, man. That is just not the direction to go. And clearly they haven't learned a single thing from Fochgate. And they just keep digging. I mean, they're at the bottom, and they keep digging. And at this point, I don't know if they have the mentality or the understanding to even turn the corner. I mean, I figured it would be obvious from what had happened, but at this point, one has to wonder if they're even capable of it. You know, at the very least, if you're going to represent the company, don't get up there and look like you'd rather have your eyes gouged out with rusty spoons than be sitting on that stage talking to the customers. It was unbelievable. You can watch the rest of the video. The body language and the facial expressions tell everything you need to know about how excited those guys are. Wow. All right, that's it for this week in Coffee Talk. Next week, I'm planning on talking about ranked battles. Hopefully, we can get some initial information out there for you on how that is going. If there are any subjects you'd like me to cover, go ahead and let me know. I appreciate you tuning in and supporting the channel. Make sure that you like, favorite, join, follow, whatever the case may be, depending on where you're looking at all this stuff. And we will see you.